Today, the Nigerian Army says it foiled an attempt by some suspected Boko Haram insurgents to attack Damaturu, the Yobe state capital, this evening. The acting assistant director of Army Public Relations of Operation Lafia Dole, Lieutenant Chinonso Ote, who confirmed the incident, said the army, supported by fighter jets, successfully repelled the attack. He explains that insurgents were sighted around 5 p.m. along Babangida area, where the headquarters of Tamwa Local Government Area Council is located. He says they were advancing to the state capital. Some residents along Gashua Road in Damaturu also told Channels Television that normalcy has been restored in the area, even though they're still in fear. The army spokesperson also spoke some more about the attack.
There's no cause for alarm. It's just a mere infiltration by some suspected Boko Haram terrorists or ISWAP, we all know. But our troops were on top of the game and they mobilized immediately to the scene. So, and due to superior firepower and in conjunction with the support from the Air Force, so they were forced to withdraw. That's the terrorists. But we're still on standby. We're still on high alert, maximum alert.
Okay.
Troops are very ready. For now, in Damaturu, everywhere is cool and calm. The situation is under control. Our troops are on top of the game. And within people in Damaturu metropolis, within under Sector 2 Operation Lafia Dole, they have been very, very supportive. Of course, they should go about doing their normal businesses, and then their cooperation is apt to sincerely appreciate the way they have been cooperating. The cooperation is something that we don't have to say yes. It's something that have been supporting us and then be helping. It's helpful. Their support is something that at least we count on at all times. At least within Damaturu, I tell you.
Meanwhile, the president has a message for the people of Damkal and Sawar villages in Basari local government area of Katsina State, where armed bandits killed several people and burnt houses yesterday. President Buhari condemned the attack in its entirety and wants members of the affected communities to know that killing people in the name of revenge is not acceptable. The president's statement reads, in part, no one in the country has a right to take laws into his hands by the way of self-help or revenge. Local communities that catch bandits should hand over the suspects to law enforcement authorities instead of meting out capital punishment, leading to a cycle of revenge and counter-revenge. President Buhari wants community leaders and the local authorities to continue their efforts in partnership with law enforcement agencies to bring the surrender of bandits, leading to peace between farmers and herders. He did encourage them to investigate and deal with any breach that occurs, since according to him, there is no place for violence in a decent society. And while the president is calling for restraint and avoidance of reprisals, human rights lawyer Mr. Femi Falana is insisting the presidency lacks the power to stop people protesting against service chiefs on the way they're handling the war against terrorism in the country. Mr. Falana says the police should be cautious and cautioned from harassing any protester, citing how a group of citizens were allowed to demonstrate in Abuja last week against Amnesty International. His comment is a reaction to a statement credited to the presidency, cautioning a section of Nigerians on plans to protest against the service chiefs tomorrow. Mr. Falana also reminds the federal government of a protest by the All Progressives Congress in November 2014, where APC leaders, including the current president, participated in protesting against insecurity under the Goodluck Jonathan administration. For the senator representing Borno South and chairman of the Senate Committee on Army, Ali Ndume, the federal government must act decisively to further empower the Nigerian Army. Senator Ndume told Channels Television's Ladi Akeredolale on our current affairs program, Newsnight, that currently the Nigerian Army is short of personnel, underfunded and ill-equipped, and that's why the insurgents continue to mount attacks.
Our soldiers, no precision, no enough technology. There are only 30,000, about 30,000 soldiers in that theater. It's grossly inadequate. They are not well equipped, they are not well kitted, they are not well funded. In Nigeria, of 200 million, You only have 150,000 soldiers with 6,000 officers. Can you say we are serious? And then government is not making any deliberate effort. Why I say so is, this is a war situation. We are at war with criminals in Nigeria now. The bandits, the kidnappers, and the Boko Haram as the top one. Nigeria have to stand up to address that issue and leave any other thing. Leave any other thing, I repeat that one. How can you be talking about infrastructure or talking about development or all that? Is it not when you have peace that you can use those places? Now there is a road from here to Kaduna, but people cannot apply it. There are certain roads in Kaduna State that have been completely abandoned. In Zamfara, you cannot follow. And even Borno, there are roads that you cannot follow. So why do you do that roads when people cannot use it in the first place? Economic activities cannot go on. So we have to put our priorities right. If the Nigerian government today decides that, okay, this Boko Haram is something that we will face, and before the rainy season, and that's June, we want to finish Boko Haram, and even banditry anywhere, it can be done. But as long as the government is playing the ostrich about this thing, it's going to consume us.
More on the interview with Senator Ndume can be seen on Newsnight. It airs tomorrow, Monday, February 17th, right here on Channels Television at 9 p.m. Away from security, at least 22 people, mostly women and children, have died in a motor accident along Kankia Danja Road in Kafuru town of Katsina State. An eyewitness told Channels Television that the accident involving two buses, one of which was carrying a newly wedded bride and her friends while they were escorting the bride to her matrimonial home. The route commander of the Federal Road Safety Corps in the state, Mr. Usman Abubakar, confirmed that 11 people were injured in the accident, while 3 others escaped unhurt. Mr. Abubakar adds that those injured have been taken to hospital for treatment, while the dead, many of whom were burned beyond recognition, have been buried. Another sad story, this time from Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital, where a 31-year-old woman named Charity Okeke was killed in a midnight fire outbreak. Eyewitnesses say the incident is the first since the upsurge of fire incidents in the state due to the Harmattan. Firefighters are, however, calling for more outlets in the state. Our correspondent Halima Guillaume has more.
Covered in a weak Harmattan haze, with the wind not overly dry and dusty, but residents are feeling the impact differently. In the past week, there has been a fire upsurge in Nasarawa State. After an occupant of this building forgot to properly extinguish the fire from her charcoal stove, 50 rooms have now become rubbles. While children are having a field day, the owner is picking pieces of what is left to renovate a section of the house. Just nearby and about the same time, fire consumes 9 other rooms. Renovations have begun, with residents not unaware of their inadequacies.
Because there was no fire extinguisher at home, we rushed out. We were using water and omo to quench the fire, which, it was just too heavy for us.
The upsurge in fire incidents did not spare 2 blocks of 5 lecture halls at the State College of Agriculture in Lafia. This incident occurred as a result of bush burning meters away from the lecture hall, which depicts a bit of negligence on the part of authorities. Properties are destroyed in these 3 incidents with no casualty, but a midnight inferno at this twin flat claimed 1 life.
I woke up around some minutes to 12 and just heard the parents shouting for help. So we rushed out and were able to rescue the mother and the father, but unfortunately we could not rescue the daughter, a girl of about 31 years old, who unfortunately died in the fire incident.
For timely response, firemen in the state are demanding better equipment.
We cannot attend to such fire, but they are inadequate. They are insufficient, because in every neighborhood it is expected that there should be fire stations charged with firefighting vehicle and personnel.
In 2019, 115 fire incidents were recorded, but between January and February this year, the number is 44, which should worry residents. Upping the ante by authorities to save lives and properties before the Harmattan bids goodbye has become imperative. Halima Gayam, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, back here in Lagos, a fire outbreak today destroyed some sections of the popular Akpongbo market at the Butero area of Lagos. The blaze, which reportedly started at about 10:45 a.m., quickly spread to other shops, aided by the Harmattan wind and other inflammable material. The General Manager of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, Dr. Femi Osointolu, says emergency responders assisted the Lagos State Fire Service to put out most of the fire. The latest incident is happening barely 3 weeks after the fire that gutted parts of the popular Balogun market on Lagos Island. In other news, the Catholic mission in Yola, Adamawa State, is asking the federal government to build houses for internally displaced persons across the country. The mission believes that the provision of houses for displaced persons will help reduce hardship they're currently experiencing and give them a sense of belonging. The Catholic Bishop of Yola Diocese, Bishop Dami Mamza, explains that thousands of persons displaced by insurgents are still living in camps across the state without any hope of returning to their ancestral homes.
We still have thousands and thousands of people living in the internal displaced camp here in Adamawa State, in Borno State, in Yobe, and even living in Abuja and other places. Though some of these people have no hope of going back to their home villages because their houses have been destroyed, their farms have been destroyed, and so the only place that they can have as their own now will be the camp where they are living. I am suggesting, and I'm asking the federal government, particularly the Northeast Development Commission, to please do something about building houses for those internally displaced people that are in different camps across the country, because they cannot continue to live in the camp forever. Those in St. Teresa's Cathedral, in my own camp, they have been living there for the past over 5 years. And they are tired of living in the camp. And we're also getting tired of taking care of them. So this plan that we have for them to come out and then build those houses for them is a kind of a permanent settlement for them.